Hello, I'd like to welcome everybody to the focus group this morning, and thanks for your participation. The purpose of my presentation today is to help you understand what we're trying to accomplish. Basically, we're talking about incorporating patient-reported outcome measures into routine clinical care in the hematology clinic at both CHEO and sick kids. And the purpose of the focus group this morning is to help choose the tools that we're going to get our patients to fill out and the frequency that we're going to do that. I want to acknowledge the fact that Julia and Johan, who are running the focus group this morning, have been hard at work doing a systematic review, looking at all the potential tools that we can use. And for this project, we decided to focus in on sickle cell disease, thalassemia, ITP, and hemophilia, as those are chronic non-malignant hematological disorders that have had a lot of literature related to patient-reported outcomes, which is why we're kind of honing in on those diseases. So the systematic review identified more than 1,000 abstracts, and they pulled more than 300 articles. So they're definitely the experts on this area. One of the things I want to cover is there's two kinds of patient-reported outcomes. There's generic tools, which the main advantage is that they can compare between the patient group and a healthy population, but they can also compare between disease groups, which is potentially relevant when we're talking about 4 different diseases. The only problem is that they're not really focused on the things that are unique and specific to a given population. The advantage of disease-specific tools is that they really hone in on what's important to the patient and to the family, and it's more sensitive to change. So ideally, you'd like to have a combination of both if you could, but I think we need to be conscious of respondent bias, sort of a burden, respondent burden. So you need to keep that in mind when deciding on tools. The next thing is self-report versus proxy report. Proxy means you're reporting on somebody else's behalf. So self-report is definitely the gold standard. We know that children as young as 7 can self-complete. For this project, we decided from 8 and up to be on the safe side. But there's situations where you're going to need proxy. For the younger kids, you definitely need it if the child's cognitively impaired, if they're too ill, or if there's language issues. The last report is called a parent self-report, basically looking at the impact of the disease on parents. So some of the disease groups have a particular parent impact report that we could potentially use. At this point, I want to talk about the KLIK and explain what that is. So KLIK is an external web application. So it's just a web platform that can be accessed by administrators who basically, for a given disease group, choose the tools and have them sort of in place, and then help distribute the tools and manage that. Then you'll have the patients and the parents who will register and then fill in the assigned questionnaires, and then the clinicians will get a copy of the results that they can look at when they go to talk to the patient. The KLIK, as many of you know, I was on sabbatical, and when I was there in the Netherlands, they now have it live at more than 10 centers in the Netherlands, basically covering the whole country. And it's being piloted in the UK. In particular, I've been to University of Southampton and Great Ormond Street, where they're piloting it in 2 different areas. So how does it work? Basically, in the clinic, you'll identify patients who fulfill the criteria, have the specific disease, and you or the nurse or someone can point them towards the website for registering. Once they're registered, with the next clinic appointment, about a week beforehand, they'll get an email that tells them to fill in the questionnaire, and then they'll get a reminder 24 hours beforehand to say, please fill in your questionnaires, same time as they're being reminded about their clinic visit, so that when they come to clinic, you'll have the questionnaires completed for the clinician to view. And this is one of the views that you'll see, and you can see the tab picked on this is Pete's QL, and you can see comparing 2015 to 2016. They have green, amber, and red. So green you can basically ignore. Amber you can decide whether it's relevant or not. And really the main focus is on the red. And so, for instance, with this patient, it said, it's hard for me to do sports activities and exercise. It was almost never back in 2015, but it was often in 2016. So there's something that's happened, so that would be one of the areas that you're going to focus in on when you're doing your clinic visit. Another way you can score it or look at it is in a graphic form, and you can see the graph, and they have a red line indicating the quote-unquote healthy population. So if you're above the red line or close to the red line, that's within norm. But if you're below, it may be an issue, and it may be something you need to focus in on. I just want to say that KLIK is not something that came about in the last year or so. It actually started back in 2003 with a grant in pediatric oncology patients, which then expanded to other disease groups, including rheumatology and hemophilia. And you can see each of these steps was accompanied by, it was a PhD thesis for a psychology student. And then you can see in 2008 it was moved from, before it was done on paper and then entered into the computer, but now it's basically all web-based since 2008. So more than a decade, which is basically far more than any other system that's out there. And again, that was published in a PhD thesis with roughly 8 different publications as part of that. And then there's also further work that's ongoing right now. So there's more than 100 publications on the use of KLIK, and this is specifically for pediatrics. You can see all the disease groups and when they became live. So for instance, you can see rheumatology, coagulation diseases such as hemophilia, and sickle cell disease were very early on in the process. Implementation. There are more than 15,000 children who are registered on the KLIK website, and what's even more remarkable is there's more than 1,000 healthcare professionals who've been trained. And you can see it's a mixture of doctors, nurses, psychologists, and social workers, all who've basically felt this is valuable enough that they would learn about it. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to the website. So this is the Dutch website, and where I'm going to basically go into the play environment, and so we pick it as a professional and log in, and then you can see you click on My Patients, and you have the list of patients. And for instance, we'll select the patient Emma. And you can see here some of the details on Emma. She's a girl. You can see what her age is, what her group she's in. This is a rheumatology patient. And then you can click on session overview, and you can see, so in 2009, this year, she filled in, these are all the questionnaires she filled in. So you can see the various ones that she did. And then you can also see the ones that her mother filled in and her father filled in. So you can see the various tools that have been filled in by the family members. And then when you go back into the profile, you can pick on the graph. You can see the questions again with the green, yellow, and red. And you can look at the graphics with the trend over time, with how they're doing. And you can see all the various tools that were filled in, and you can click on each one of those. So I hope that was helpful. This is just to give you a quick idea of what we're trying to accomplish with this focus group. And good luck, and I hope things go well today.